traditional banks, that's their job. They take money from the money supplier and they give that money goes to other people. In a very classical system, very like capitalist economic and finance system, the only way to get or to attract money from people actually is to borrow money for interest. Is to borrow money for interest, right? And likewise, to give money to others as a loan for interest. So those finance institutions, or finance as an industry, okay, is an industry that attracts money from different individuals. They borrow that money, let's say for example, for 5% APR, annual percentage rate. And they tell them that they give that money for those who are looking for fund, let's say for 9%. Difference between 9 and 5, that's 4. This is actually how they make their living. So they borrow money for interest and they lend money for interest. This is like a very classical way of attracting money and distributing money. And the job of the bank or the finance institute is just to get money from those who do have money and willing to, offer that money for whatever it is, and to redirect that money for those who are looking for funding. Well, believe it or not, in the Islamic finance system, to start with, loan is not a mode of finance. Loan is not a mode of finance. You are not supposed to give someone qardul hasan, interest-free loan, let's say $100,000. Okay? If I have, for example, $100,000 cash available, to be used, right? And someone is approaching me, has a car dealership. If I know for a fact that he wants my money to operate his business and to make profit out of it, is it a good idea? Is it a feasible idea for me to give him qardul hasan, interest-free loan for 1 or 2 or 3 years, taking my money, benefiting from my money, making profit from my money, and then after 3 years coming back to $100,000, okay, with the inflation, its purchase power goes down maybe 15, 20, 25%, with a big approach, thank you so much, here is your money. Is that a good idea? Of course it is not. Why should I give you my money to make money from my money and to give me the principal with no benefit? Well, in this case, if you want to take my money for business purposes, let's sit down together and talk business. I can give you the money based on the mudaraba, trustee partnership. We can establish a partnership. I provide the money, so I will be the financier, and you will be the operator or the manager. Okay? If there is a profit, I will take my share, you take your share. If there is a loss, I will be losing the principal. So this is actually how Islamic finance works. So just always remember, loan is not a mode of finance. The Islamic finance system, you have to be clear. You either offer a loan as qardul hasan, interest-free loan. Okay? And if you decide to do so, it's a kind of devotion, kind of ibadah, kind of rewardable act. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ told us that if you lend your money, qardul hasan, with no interest, lending your money twice, like to give it to a lead individual to help him, like going through some financial difficulties, whatever. If you lend your money for the first time and you get it back, and you lend it again and you get it back, you will be counted as if you have donated that money, as if you have donated that money. But you are not supposed to look for any worldly benefit out of it. In fact, a part of the package that you assume actually is to assume the risk of losing that money and to take even the inflation. Like if you are to give someone $100,000 today, qardul hasan, for 1 year, right? Next year, if he is committed enough to pay you back, right? The purchase power of the 100,000 next year, in the month of July, will go down to maybe 95, 97. So you're supposed to incur actually that loss or the reduction in the purchase power or the inflation that's taking place, especially nowadays in the USA after or post-COVID-19. So just remember that loan is not a mode of finance scheme. Now, if you add to the term finance, if you put before it Islamic finance, now you start zooming in and talking about a very particular system. Everybody actually here knows for a fact that Alhamdulillah, Islam is a comprehensive way of life. And as our Shaykh in his introduction said that Alhamdulillah, we know how to pray, we know how to fast. Well, there's a comprehensive system how to live your deen, right? There's a spiritual system, an ibadat system, and there is a social system, as well as there is a finance system. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala And his Prophet ﷺ did actually get involved in the way, or they set some restrictions and guidelines for us on how to conduct our business. You are not supposed to cheat, you are not supposed to lie, you are not supposed to. One of those instructions actually is that you are not supposed to get involved in any interest-bearing transaction. Right? So do we have something called the finance system or the Islamic finance system? The answer is absolutely yes. When you hear the term Islamic finance, it should actually come to your mind that every single individual involved in this business, right, is maintaining the highest level of transparency and integrity. Everything actually has to be on the same page. All the conditions and all the clauses and all the scenarios have to be incorporated in a contract. Everybody knows from day one who is collecting the fund and who is operating and who is in charge and what will happen if there is a profit, what will happen if there is a loss, what will happen if one of the partners actually did not commit to paying the principal that he's supposed to pay, what will happen if someone actually wants to exit that. All these what ifs with S start then have to be incorporated in a contract. So no one would say down the road, oh, you know what, I did not know. No one told me that. Well, there's nothing called no one told me. Everything actually has to be clear. This is actually what we mean by the transparency and integrity. Islamic finance is all about ethics and values. Ethics and values. And I want you to remember this statement. Permissibility overrides feasibility. What does that mean? It means from an Islamic finance perspective, we do not care about how profitable and how feasible a certain business might be, as long as it is proven that that business is so harmful to the society. If it is something that's explicitly haram, explicitly harmful, right? Does not benefit the community, challenges the ethics and the values of the conviction of the community, something related maybe to adult entertainment, maybe winery, maybe gambling, maybe tobacco, maybe, or something that's clearly prohibited. Well, if it is proven that a certain business is clearly haram, you cannot even sit down and discuss it, even if it is so profitable. Unfortunately, nowadays in this society here, and even like global level, right? Why? People actually do not care about the permissibility, they care about the feasibility. And that's why certain industries, without mentioning names, are so profitable. That's why they are prevailing, big time nowadays because of the profit that they make. Although they destroy the ethics and the values of the community and the society. Commoditization and asset-backed is one of the characteristics. It means simply that in the same way that you care about your own well-being, in the same way that you care about your own profitability, you want to make sure that whenever you get involved in business, you make a good profit and good money. You should care about the community at large. You should make sure that you produce something, something tangible, something valuable, something that is beneficial to the community. You are not supposed to make money while harming other individuals. Why am I mentioning so? Because nowadays, in what is so-called the stock market, there are several ways of making money in a very nonsense way. And I will explain. A lot of financial instruments between derivatives and futures and options and CDS and CDO, they actually mean nothing. Like that piece of sheet of paper that you hold, financial instrument, it's not supported, it's not backed up by any commodity, by any merchandise, by any service whatsoever. Just a piece of paper that you can turn it valid by paying a premium for it, right? And that financial instrument is connected with a certain portfolio or certain index. If that index makes money, you lose money. If they lose money, you make profit, right? I mean, this is even with the assumption that this kind of business is a halal, although it's not, right? But even with the assumption that it's a halal way, this is not actually an ethical way for you as a religious practicing Muslim to make profit. So make sure that you get involved in actual, real, tangible business that brings value to the society. You benefit the community at large in the same way that you benefit yourself. It goes without saying that maybe the most important characteristic of this system is the ban or the prohibition of interest. Is that right? You are not supposed to borrow money with interest. You are not supposed to lend money with interest. You are not supposed to facilitate in a business that does involve interest-bearing transactions. You are not supposed to involve in facilitating lending activities as long as riba actually is involved. What is so interesting here to know is that the prohibition of interest is not something has been initiated by Islam. We wholeheartedly believe that in the same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited us Muslims from dealing with interest, He did the same with the Christian community. He did the same with the Jewish community. Go to the Quran, forget about the Torah. Go to the Quran that you read day and night. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah An-Nisa was criticizing a certain Jewish community at a certain period of time for certain bad behaviors, right? And he counted that actually, he documented this in the Quran. فَبِظُلْمٍ مِّنَ الَّذِينَ هَادُوا حَرَّمْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ طَيِّبَاتٍ أُحِلَّتْ لَهُمْ وَبِصَدِّهِمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ كَثِيرًا. And then he said, وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَا وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ. Can you believe it? وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَا وَقَدْ. They used to transact with interest while they were prohibited from doing so. So the Torah is the Quran. So we wholeheartedly believe that interest or riba or usury, doesn't make a difference what we're going to call it, was prohibited in Judaism. I know that we have a big question mark when it comes to the authenticity of what is so-called Bible nowadays, because we have maybe 15, 20 different versions and we do not know which one of them is the correct one. Okay? Just to grab any edition of the Bible if you choose and start reading randomly, you will come across several verses, either by Isa alayhi salatu wasalam or by the disciples of Hawariyin, where they were explicitly prohibiting their followers from dealing with interest. So there is a lot of consistency here. Okay? Riba was prohibited in Judaism, riba was prohibited in Christianity, riba is prohibited in Islam, riba will continue being prohibited all the way to the day of judgment. Now, having said that, if you feel more comfortable calling this system that we're discussing tonight, you want to call it the Jewish finance system, you are correct. You want to call it the Christian finance system, you are absolutely right. You want to call it Islamic finance, call it whatever you want. Divine finance, there's a lot of consistency. It's definitely impossible that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to prohibit the Muslim community from doing something while it was absolutely halal, especially if it is something harmful as riba, okay, while being permissible for the people intending that. So there is a lot of consistency here, as I said. Riba was prohibited in Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and will continue being prohibited all the way until the day of judgment. Why I'm calling this presentation Islamic Finance 101? Because we are here tonight to unlock the secret of the system. We are not here to dig in depth and discuss very tiny details, okay, on how to conduct Aqdul Mudaraba, what will happen. Well, this is out of the scope of this presentation. We do have, alhamdulillah, masters in Islamic economics and finance at Guidance College, the college that I'm representing tonight. If you are interested to become like a professional and highly specialized in Islamic finance, you are more than welcome to join us. We have masters in Islamic economics and finance. And the materials and the curriculum that we offer, you cannot find it somewhere else. Alhamdulillah, it is as deep as you could ever imagine. So this is just an introduction only, with no detailed discussion regarding the fiqh issue. That is during the presentation. Then after that, maybe we can open the door. Now, moving on. We have been saying that riba is haram, riba is prohibited. And by the way, riba, interest, usury could be used interchangeably. Some economists nowadays they do differentiate between usury from masala and interest, and they prohibit usury while interest is not. Well, from an Islamic perspective, they are the same. They could be used like interchangeably. Here is the confusion. Sometimes when we attempt to educate ourselves, okay, in ahkam or riba, we just grab those classical fiqh books like Al-Mughni ibn Qudama or Umdat al-Salik or Umdat al-Nasik ibn Naqib al-Masri, right? And so on and so on. Start reading, and we go to the chapter of riba. The more we read, the more we get confused. We come across examples of riba who are absolutely correct and authentic, don't get me wrong. But they are very outdated very, very outdated examples. Exchanging barley for wheat, exchanging مش عارف apple for banana, exchanging sugar for rice. And the more you read, the more you like scratch your head and say, well, is this the river that you are facing here? Well, the answer is, as our Sheikh mentioned, Muslims in the USA in 2026 do not exchange barley for wheat or apple for banana or rice for sugar, right? We do not do that. So those examples are absolutely correct and authentic, but they used to take place in the past. They do not exist anymore. Anyway, to keep it simple, rest assured that whenever the term riba mentioned in the Quran, it refers to one category only, which is called riba al-nasiya or riba al-jahiliya or riba al-diyun. Forget about those scary big names, right? Just remember this definition. From now on, when I say riba, I do refer actually to this category. The good news here is that this is actually the most severe, because riba actually has different levels of riba to Allah. And this is the most severe, the most prohibited one from one side. And its prohibition is something that is agreed upon, whether you follow the Hanafi madhab or the Maliki or the Shafi'i like me or the Hanbali or the non-madhabi one, okay? Whatever madhab you follow, that category of riba actually is haram. And believe it or not, it is the interest very low. Simple as that. It is the interest very low. You go to Bank of America, you apply for personal loan, maybe industrial loan, student loan, business loan, investment. It's the same concept. Once you are approved, okay, for let's say 5% APR, right? It means that if you take $100,000 for 1 year, I'm not talking about compound interest, I'm talking about simple interest, right? If you are approved for 5%, what does it mean? It means that you take that money, you do whatever you want, and you have to pay the bank the principal, which is 100,000, plus 5%, which is 5,000 our example, right? So you do whatever you want with the money, and if you want to keep the money for 3 years, then the total should be 115. You want to keep the money for 40 years, 120. Is that correct? Yeah. So there is no partnership between you and the bank, and that's exactly what I'm referring here to. So from now on again, whenever I say riba, it is the premium that must be paid by the borrower to the lender, along with the principal amount, either as a condition for the loan or for an extension is matured. And for simplicity purposes, forget about or for an extension is matured. Just focus on the first part of it. Okay. Look at the definition again and tell me how many categories of money we have here. We have two different categories. We have the premium and we have the principal. Remember this example. You go to Bank of America, okay, you apply for $100,000 loan, investment loan, business loan, whatever. And you are approved for 5% APR, right? Remember those numbers. So the premium here is the 5%. 5% means 5,000 for 1 year, 10,000 for 2 years, and so forth. So that's the premium. And the principal in our example is how much? 100,000, right? How many parties we have here? We have two parties. We have the borrower, we have the lender. And this actually sets the tone from day one that the bank actually is not partnering with you. The bank is sitting, relaxing like this, giving you the money, do whatever you want, you're absolutely by your own, you make profit, you break even, you incur loss, they're very positive, we don't care about you. What we care about is the principal and the premium. They have to be paid regardless. Do whatever you want, and if you are not willing to pay, we'll meet you in the court system and get the money against you. This is actually how the system works, right? So it is the premium that must be paid by the borrower to the lender along with the principal amount as a condition for the loan. As a condition for the loan means that riba is unavoidable. If you tell the guy in Bank of America, the loan officer, you know what, I'm a practicing Muslim and we do not believe in riba and interest. Do you think that I can get $100,000 like with zero interest? Right? The answer would be, well, you go to your mosque and ask them to give you money, right? We are not giving money here for you, we are a business bank. So if you do not commit yourself, okay, to paying that interest, you cannot proceed with the loan, right? So again, from now on, whenever I say interest, I actually refer to this very particular one, which is the interest-bearing loan. When riba is not is not avoidable. You cannot avoid it. Okay? And believe it or not, holding credit card is not included here, by the way, because when you hold a credit card in the US here, the system is clear. If you commit yourself to paying the monthly statement, right, monthly statement in full, before the due date, and you stay away from cash withdrawal, right, then how much interest you pay? Zero. So holding credit card is not included. I just want to make it clear. Talking about cases where riba is unavoidable. Holding credit card is different because riba is avoidable. If you know how to handle the credit card, then you should be good. So that is the riba. And as you see, no partnership between you and the bank. Bank is not taking any risk whatsoever. And there is definitely a lot of financial exploitation and taking advantage of people because we have a strong party and a weak party. The strong party actually is the bank. Here's what we have for you. You take it or you leave it. And you are in desperate need for money, right? So you have to say yes, sir, and you should sign and get your money. And consequently, this actually caused a lot of financial exploitation, taking advantage of people in the society. What kind of challenge we face here? In my opinion, I might be wrong, it is actually the discrepancy between what we read in those classical books, right, as opposed to what we face in the real life. In the classical books, we read those like big, scary terms, riba al-fadl, riba al-nasa, riba al-nasi'a, riba al-nuqud, riba al-ta'am, riba al-jahiliyyah, like big, scary names, and very outdated examples. Remember, like barley for wheat and sugar for rice and all these confusing things, right? I mean, this is what we read in the classical books. In the real life, sometimes you come across certain transactions or certain scenarios where you find yourself in a position you either charge other people or you get charged by others. And I'll give you just very quick examples here. Have you heard about penalty? Okay, penalty clause. Is the penalty clause riba or not? Like when you pay or when you charge the other party penalty, there's the penalty clause of the agreement, right? Like for example, if the home builder did not submit the power to on time, you charge him 500,000 per year. Would that be counted as riba? We need to know. How about the overdraft charge? I'll explain. Overdraft charge. If you overuse your debit card, then you find yourself in a position where you have to pay more than what the bank actually gave you. Would that overdraft charge be counted as riba or not? Late fees. Each and every single utility bill that you receive on a monthly basis does have a due date. What will happen if you pass the due date? You have to pay it plus late fees. Would that late fees be counted as interest or not? Right? Dividend, if you have business to do in the stock market, you have a simple investment account, brokerage account, 401k, pension plan, you name it, right? If you make profit or dividend, would that be counted as riba? How about the term of profit? Sometimes, like certain contracts, you read profit, you receive it or you give it to other individuals. How about commission? You do like a certain job for a certain percentage of the revenue. They call it commission. Like go fundraising for me, and I will give you 10% of the production as a commission. Right? Would that be counted as riba or not? Sometimes they mention that the term interest is every single like term interest in any contract would be counted as the haram interest. That's something actually very interesting for us to learn more about. Okay? By the way, 2 years ago, a local bank here called Regions in Texas, they offered me to open a checking account. And they said, if you open a checking account, we're going to gift you $400. We're going to deposit $400 for you. Are you willing? I said, yes. And I did open a checking account. They deposited $400 for me. To my surprise, toward the end of the year, they sent me 1099 form, $400 interest. So the gift that was given to me, deposited in my checking account, was counted or viewed as an interest in front of the IRS. My question here, since they call those $400 interest, would that be making it the real actual interest that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited? This is actually where the confusion is coming from, right? So that's the interest. How about cash back when you use your credit card and get some money? Fine, like kind of compensation, you do a certain job for a certain compensation. Another area where you do a job without being contracted, right? And they give you like check or whatever, and really service fees, equity, shares, and the rest actually goes on and on. Those are the actual real charges, right? That we face sometimes on daily basis. You either charge others or you get charged by others. Okay? Here's actually where the confusion is coming from. We read something in those classical books that we come across in our real life, different terms, different examples. What we need to do here is to unlock the secret of those contemporary transactions by answering a very simple question. It's not like rocket science, as they say. If it is proven in any enterprise, any business, any partnership, any contract, and I mean what they say, that someone is offering money to others, and he or she is asking for that principal to be guaranteed to be paid back. And there is like some premium on top of it, without taking any risk whatsoever, giving that money, right? Receiving that money plus interest on top of it, that is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Even if it is called otherwise. Any partnership, any business, any contract, any potential investment opportunity, if it is proven that someone is offering money, and asking for a certain number of dollars, percentage or lump sum, to be added on top of the principal. Or you know what? Even if he or she is asking for the principal to be guaranteed, there is the money, do whatever you want. If you do not make profit, that's fine, but you need to pay me back my principal rather than the year. If the principal is guaranteed, and the profit on top of it is guaranteed, that is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Even if it is called otherwise. Even if they, like people call it mudar, musharaka, we don't care about the names. And this actually brings to our attention a very important fiqh maxim here. قاعدة فقهية. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. What matters in business transactions is the essence and the reality, not the wording or the formality. Okay? If you write down here wine or beer, it doesn't make it haram because in reality what we have in this bar is what, right? If you go to a Bank of America again and you borrow $100,000 for 5% APR, and the loan officer somehow, instead of asking you to sign promissory notes, okay, he just changed the name and he just wrote murabaha or musharaka or ijara or mudaraba. Would that make it halal? Does that make it halal, right? So this is actually what you mean by al-ibratu fil uqud bil maqasid. We should not be tricked by names. Let me just take a very quick exit here. Some of those called Islamic mortgage companies in the USA try to impress the community whenever they do a presentation using those like big scale names. We do ijara, we do musharaka, كل عين متملك الرقبة, they come out. So everybody will say, wow, those people actually know Islamic finance. But in reality, with all due respect, they do not know what Islamic finance is all about. Do you know why? Grab their contract, okay, and just read it in full. And try to find out how much risk they are taking. Okay? If they call it musharaka, partnership. If we are shuraka, and I own 10% of the house and you own 90%, it's just a common sense that we share the expenses proportionally. You take care of 90% of the maintenance and tax and insurance, and I take care of 10% of the maintenance, tax and insurance. Does that make sense? If you are not taking care of your equity, the percentage, then what kind of sharaka, what kind of partnership we are talking about? If there's an appreciation or depreciation, and I just take it in full, and I take nothing. If you are asking me to guarantee the principal and to pay you your so-called profit on top of it, then what kind of sharaka will create, right? So grab their content and read some content, not all of them, and you will be surprised that this is actually a conventional mortgage. Like if you go to Bank of America, you go to XYZ, so-called Islamic mortgage company, outcome result is the same. Principal is guaranteed, return on top of it is guaranteed, and the Bank of America and Chase and Wells Fargo, and those so-called Islamic mortgage companies, they just almost guaranteeing the principal and guaranteeing the profit on top of it. So even if they dare calling it ijara or murabah or musharak or mudaraba, we don't care about names. We care about the essence and the reality of the with this in mind, let's just maybe touch briefly on some actual examples. Let's do some maybe exercise together here, right? Just to learn how to unlock the secret of those transactions. And you will be surprised that it's a very simple way of discovering what's haram and what's halal. Okay, first example, saving account. Do you think that if you open a saving account and you generate profit, extra money, would that be a halal option or not a halal option? For my case, if you think that opening like traditional saving account and getting money out of it, if you think it is a halal option, raise your hand. I'm going to put this box, so raise your hand. If you think that opening a saving account is not a halal option, raise your hand. Some others did not raise their hand either. Right. Okay. Before we answer the question, think about it this way. I have $10,000. I gave it to our Imam Sheikh Muhammad. Here's 10,000. Do whatever you want. You pay me $10,500 by December 31st, 2026. What is the interest bearing loan? Interest bearing loan. Do whatever you want. You pay me back 10,000, the principal, and the premium is 500. That's an interest bearing loan. Before giving the money to the Sheikh, I changed my mind. I went to Bank of America, as they call it, Bank of America, and I opened a saving account, $10,000. Okay? And by the agreement, they have to pay me, don't quote me numbers, I'm just giving random numbers. By the agreement, they have to pay me $10,500 toward the end of the year. What is the difference between scenario 1 and scenario 2? Well, in reality, actually, there is no difference. I'm lending my money to the Sheikh for $500 interest. Likewise, I'm lending my money to the bank for $500 interest. Some people say, oh, hold on. You want to tell me that you, the one who has only $10,000, lending Bank of America that has hundreds of billions of trillions of dollars, do they need your money? Yes. My answer actually, I don't care about who has more and who has less money. What we care about is the essence and the reality. They take my money, and by the FDIC, by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, I can go after them and ask for that $500 extra. So the nature of the agreement shows it clearly that I am lending my money to Bank of America. You see? And this actually brings us back again. العبرة في العقود بالمقاصد والمعاني إلا الفرق والمباني. Right? What matters in transaction is the essence and the reality, not the wording or the form. Unlike if you open, for example, mutual fund account, go to a Z fund or a Zaki Financial or Sharia portfolio or Iman fund or whatever, and open just a mutual fund or ETF, halal, right? They do not guarantee you the return. If there is a profit, you will get your share. If not, then like, no profit. Simple as that. Well, that's a halal one, and opening a saving account actually is not a halal. Take another example. Overdraft charge. Overdraft charge. What does it mean overdraft? You use your own debit card. Okay? Debit card. That's connected with your checking account. Is that correct? You stop by okay, are you in rush?
No, I'm not. I don't have back.
Oh, okay. Doing the chair or something?
The chair is too hard.
Okay. So, one more time. Overdraft charge. You have a debit card that's connected to your checking account. Let's say that you stop by a point of sale and you purchased an item for $500. Okay. You had at that time only $300 in your checking account. Unfortunately or unfortunately, the transaction went through. So you had only $300 and you purchased an item for how much? Catching up with me? So the transaction actually went through. And to your surprise, after 3-4 days when you checked your like online bank statement, you found out that you have to pay those $200 back plus $45 overdraft charge. It's not riba, it's overdraft charge. If you think that the overdraft charge, sorry, I'm going to put you on the spot again. If you think that those overdraft charge is riba interest, raise your hand. You have to take an action. You either raise your hand or you can't. Right. If you think that those $45 are not riba, raise your hand. You did not raise your hand.
All right, raise my hand.
Okay. Like, before we answer, let's unlock the secret of the transaction. What does it mean if I have only $300, I purchase a item for $500? That the bank paid $200 on my behalf. Make sense? Now, do I have to pay the bank those $200 or not?
Yes.
So, do you think that the bank is like giving me $200 like for free? Of course not. So this is a loan, believe it or not. This is a loan. The bank did not really listen. I'm going to lend you 200. No, but the nature of the transaction shows it clearly that you are borrowing that money from the bank, and that's why you have to pay the $200 back. Common sense, right? Now, if the only thing you need to pay is the $200, then nothing to worry about. You borrow $200, that's an interest free loan. Problem here is that you have to pay on top of those $200 certain amount of money. That certain amount of money, they call it in business, they call it the overdraft charge. By default, unless otherwise proven, that overdraft charge is illegal because you borrowed 200 and you have to pay it back 245. The bank might say no, I can make an argument. This is a very irregular transaction. Our customer did not have sufficient money. We did not want to embarrass him in front of the salesperson. That's why we processed from our pocket $200. Okay, and in order for us to go after him and to collect that money, okay, there is a lot of work that has to be done. So because of the hands-on work that we have done, we deserve for the verdict. And that's a very good argument, by the way. It could be a valid one. So the rule here is that by default, those overdraft charges are haram unless otherwise proven. And otherwise could be easily proven. Fair enough? Good enough? Right. I'm gonna open inshallah the floor for question and answer. Give me just maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Okay? Right. How about home mortgage? Do you think that mortgaging a home again? Do you think that mortgaging a home in the US in a very classical traditional way, is it a halal option or a haram option? If it is a halal option, raise your hand. It's a free country, just say whatever you want. Mr. President, halal. Right. If you think that mortgaging a house in a very classical way is not a halal option, raise your hand. Yeah, we go with the reality. Right. Let's unlock the secret of the mortgage. What does it mean to mortgage a house in the US? What does it mean? It means that you are getting involved in a sale agreement between you and the landlord. You want to purchase a house for $500,000, right? And he is willing to sell. So you are the buyer, and he is the seller. So there is a sale agreement. And of course, you do not have $500,000 cash, and that's why you go to a mortgage company and apply for a mortgage. And if your application is approved based on your annual income, employment history, credit scores, income debt ratio, several things. Once you are approved, the mortgage company would pay $500,000 on your behalf to the landlord, and you have to pay it back $800,000 within the next 30 years. Is that correct? So there is a loan agreement. Now, in order for the bank to secure their fund and to make sure that if you default, they can go after you and get their money, they just put a lien on the property. They mortgage the property. They mortgage the property. So we're talking about sale agreement or contract, loan agreement or contract, and mortgage agreement. Right? We do not have any issue with the sale agreement. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. Believe it or not, we do not have any problem even with the mortgage agreement, in a sense, okay, that if someone is lending money to others, he does have the right, if it is an interest-free loan, pay attention to it, if it is a qardun hasan, right, or if it is a debt, okay, you do have the right to ask for security. You do have the right to ask for collateral, right? For example, someone is approaching me asking for $100 loan, and I do not know him well. So listen, brother, I'm willing to give you 100, but you need to give me your phone. I'm going to keep it with me as a collateral until you come back and pay me the $100. You give me my money, I'll give you your phone. Deal, he said keep. That's actually called rahan. Rahan actually is halal. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah, he mentioned that clearly. وَإِن كُنتُمْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ وَلَمْ تَجِدُوا كَاتِبًا فَرِهَانٌ مَقْبُولٌ. Al-rihan actually is the rahan. And the rahan is mortgage. So, in essence, like basically, having what we call it a secured loan or collateralized loan is halal. So we do not have any issue with the sale agreement. We do not have any issue with the mortgage agreement. But we do have actually like a big concern when it comes to the loan agreement. Because actually they pay $500,000 on your behalf and you have to pay it back $800,000 within the next 25 or 50 years. Some people would say, no, hold on. The mortgage company actually is the owner of the property. They own the property. And that's halal. Okay? How did you know that, your brother? Okay. Their answer will be, you go to the deed of trust and read. You will see the obliger, your good self, like the victim or the customer, the home buyer. Okay? And the financier, which is the mortgage company. Well, the financier actually is different from the owner. You are the owner of the house from day one. The system here actually is so sophisticated. They give what is called the legal ownership of the mortgage company, and they give you something called the beneficial ownership or something. Okay? It has like a different name, I forgot. But anyway, from day one, you are fully responsible for the maintenance, for the tax, and for the insurance. If there is any appreciation or depreciation, that's yours, right? If anything happened to the house, then the mortgage company does not care about, they don't get involved in paying any expense to maintain that property. And this actually makes it clear that you are the owner of the house, even if your equity, what is called equity in the house, is only 2 or 3%. Technically speaking, equity means the percentage of ownership that is paid already. From an Islamic finance perspective, there is a huge difference between owning the house on one side and being in debt with the mortgage company with the house. You are the owner of the house 100% from day one. However, you owe OWE, you owe the mortgage company the price of the house, right? So, we ended up having halal sale agreement and a halal mortgage agreement and a haram loan agreement, right? It is like two democratic, process. Then we go with the majority, two halal against one haram should be good to go, right? Unfortunately, in the Islamic finance system, it goes the other way around. If it is proven that only one segment in the deal is explicitly haram, that would be way more than enough to ruin the whole deal and to make it haram. And that's why actually mortgaging homes in a very classical, very conventional way is not halal. It is absolutely not. I have a lot actually to say, and we're running out of time, so after the permission of our Sheikh, I'm going to just pause here and take questions. So we have to finish by 10 o'clock. Otherwise, you're going to hate me the most because there's a dinner after that. I don't want anyone to hate me, right? Right. So the floor actually, again, as you see here, I have a lot of materials to share, but I'm going to stop to get your questions. So please limit yourself to one question and make sure you give an access to the sisters if they want to ask either directly or random or whatever. I just want to make sure that they are involved in the presentation and they benefit from it. So the floor is yours. Limit yourself to one question, please, and make it like straightforward to the point. The floor is yours.
If I own common stock, I own common stock, let's say some company, do I pay zakat because it's mine? It's an asset I have. Do I pay zakat on the total principal amount, whatever it's worth on the market now, or do I pay zakat on the dividend that company is generating for me?
It depends on which platform you are referring to. If those stocks are a part of your 401k, very restricted account or any kind of retirement account, okay, in which you are not supposed to withdraw before the age of retirement, right?
Right.
If that is the case, then you go with a very simple formula. You go with the withdrawable amount, how much you can withdraw from that account, minus any prescribed penalty, if you are like under 60 years old, minus any prescribed tax, right? And you can still deduct another 15-20% fixed assets, the usul الثابتة, non-zakatable one. And the rest amount, the net amount is the zakatable one based on 2.5%. To keep it very simple, if you do have a certain amount, if you pay 2.5% on 50%, 50% of whatever you have sitting in your account, that will be good enough. So if you do have $100,000 worth of investment in your 401k, right? 50% is 50,000. 50,000 times 2.5%, you pay the zakat, you should be good to go.
But what if it's not in a 401k? I own it outright through like a
What is the name of the account? Simple investment account?
brokerage, like a
Brokerage account?
brokerage account. Yeah.
Okay. Since this one is accessible in full, you go with the same formula. Withdrawable amount minus any prescribed penalty. There's no penalty here, but it is a taxable, right? So you do the math. If you have your simple investment account or a mutual fund, right? ETF, you have $100,000. How much is the accessible amount? 100,000. If you decide to withdraw in full, how much tax will be charged? You do the math, right?
Nothing.
And will be taxed.
You'll be taxed? Yes, only because I.
If you have an IRA, for example,
Yes.
you will be taxed 3 times.
No,
I
not
did it once
an
on-
IRA. Not an IRA. It's not IRA. It's a brokerage account. Like I'm
Non-taxable.
non-tax. I mean, it does have
Pre-tax.
tax because
Pre-tax.
you have to tax it at the end of the year.
Anyway.
But I'm like trading in that brokerage
Okay.
account.
You go with the withdrawable amount, which is here 100%, minus any prescribed penalty, any prescribed tax, minus another 15-20% fixed assets. Fixed assets, let me just explain it. Those companies that you hold their stocks in the stock market do not represent 100% zakatable assets. They do have their own machineries and their own devices and their own tools and all, offices and so buildings and so on and so forth. So between 15-20% fixed asset, non-zakatable, are like very, I would say very reasonable for you to deduct. So to keep it simple, if it is like under your 401k or any restricted investment account, just pay 50%, pay zakat 2.5% on the 50% of what you have. If it is like a free, accessible account, like simple investment account, brokerage account, what we call it, mutual fund, then you find out the total amount, minus any prescribed tax, and minus 20%, I would say, fixed assets. If you pay zakat on 60 or 70%, whatever you have, you will be definitely in the safe side. Now, probably.
Can I get a mic? You have a cordless mic, and I could take it to the brothers. So everybody can hear. Cordless mic.
It's okay, I can speak loudly. It's actually two questions in one. For a masjid, can a masjid invest in the stock market? That's my first part. The second part is the waqf income from investment. We pay the account on it.
First question, definitely you can invest in the stock market as long as you make the right decision by like setting your own portfolio and make sure that you invest with the Sharia compliant, like Muslim-owned investment company. Alhamdulillah, we have a lot of options. One of those options is called Zaki Financial, ZAKI Financial, and I recommend this company because I'm the Islamic finance consultant in that company. I know what kind of business they do. So the answer is yes. And the second question, no zakah on the revenue that you make from the Alqudah, because it is publicly owned and not privately owned. So the waqf itself and whatever money that you generate from the waqf actually is non-zakatable because it is owned by the Muslim community represented by the Board of Trustees or the Zakat Committee or whatever. So there is no zakah on it.
Jazakallah, barakallah.
No, problem.
Jazakallah khair. some Islamic institution, they offer loan, and that loan has like APR and everything. But in the agreement, it doesn't say loan. Say like it's tawarruq, and the APR is administration fee. Can you unlock those wording and
Monetization, which is the tawarruq, actually has different ways, like it is conducted different ways. So if it is done accordingly, by having like two different transactions, and the tawarruq was done hourly, that could be permitted in case of desperate need. The majority of contemporary scholars are of the agreement that tawarruq actually is not halal. Tawarruq actually means monetization. It's just a different way of getting some cash money without being involved with the riba, right? So the most prevailing opinion is that tawarruq is not halal. With very few exceptions, Sheikh Alqudah was of the opinion that the tawarruq, al-masrif al-munazam, like the banking tawarruq is permissible. But my answer is no. You should not get involved in tawarruq whatsoever, unless there is a desperate action. Should I explain tawarruq for you?
Yes.
Briefly, okay. I need money, and I don't have any opportunity to get halal loan, right? So I purchased the car from Sheikh Muhammad, $10,000 installments here. So I take his car, I buy from him, and I owe him how much? 10,000. And I tell my case, I sell that car to a third party for $9,000 cash. With the car and with the money. I end up having $9,000 cash to be paid back how much? 10,000. But I did not borrow anything. And it's not very agreement. I did not buy it from him and sell it back to him. No. I know the third party. If it is done this way, they call it tawarruq al-fardi, like the individual tawarruq, that would be fine. A lot of Mashaykh, including our Shaykh Salah al-Sawi, is of the opinion that if it is done this way, that would be fine. Because there is an actual, real transaction involved, right? But the tawarruq al-masrif al-munawwam, like the banking monetization, actually is the problematic one. Because the bank is getting involved and running the transaction. It has a lot of tricks to keep the risk to the minimum. So it's a semi-interest variable, right? So the individual tawarruq would be fine as needed. It's the only way where you can secure some cash money. If you do it this way, you buy installment sale, like credit sale, you sell it spot sale, and you get the cash money. Now, for example, I ended up having $9,000 cash available, right? And I have to pay it to the Sheikh 10,000. That's an individual tawarruq, like totally.
Yeah, I want to go back to the overdraft that you mentioned earlier.
Was that
The overdraft, on the overdraft.
overdraft charge?
The overdraft charge. What if it was mentioned as a penalty, like it's a penalty clause? They told me, okay, do not overdraft. If you do overdraft, we will charge you this amount. Is it still bad for the bank to do that because they already mentioned it's a penalty?
It could be justified. I mean, the overdraft charge, if it matches the actual expense that the bank incurs, to process this irregular transaction, that would be fine. And in most cases, it is actually justifiable. Because again, it's a very irregular. They have to process from their own bank account some money, not to embarrass the customer, and they go after him to get the money. So because of the extra work they do, okay, they charge what's called an overdraft charge. But again, like as an Islamic finance 101 presentation, I have to mention that by default it is riba unless otherwise. So I made a disclaimer that it could be justified. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Can you pause here for the brother side? We want to get some questions from the sisters and then we'll come back to the brother side.
Sounds good.
Sister, if they would like to ask a question, please.
They can say a microphone over there. They have a microphone. They have a microphone.
Can you speak up, please?
Yes. Hello. I am a
Well, if you are a new convert to Islam, I would say do not worry about your finance for the time being, because strengthening your iman and your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most important thing. And then down the road, slowly, you can discuss your finance status with a specialized individual. What kind of finance questions you have? Do you have a saving account? Do you have a student loan? Do you have investment? So there's no like one size fits all. It has to be taken case by case basis. Okay, what is the question? What kind of investment do you have? Do you have a retirement account? Do you have saving account? Do you have mutual fund? Did you take like a student loan? Is it subsidized, unsubsidized one? A lot of details actually have to be verified before giving you an answer. But my basic answer is that checking your finance is not as top priority as strengthening your faith and your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the most important thing. Inshallah, down the road, you will be learning more about Islamic finance and try to align your financial plans or financial life with Islamic principles.
Sheikh, when it comes to us students, obviously we're on a university campus, and many of us, mashallah, higher education for medicine and such. Is there any way to engage with student loans that she mentioned, just so anybody who doesn't know how the student loans work may understand?
We do have actually an official fatwa issued by our fiqh council, AMJA. Are you aware of AMJA, by the way? AMJA? Let me see that. It's good actually to go to our website because it has a lot of fatwa, AMJA online. That's our website. This is like one of the councils that our Sheikh mashallah is very aware of. AMJA online stands for the Assembly. You see it? Okay, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America. We have General Assembly, we have Resident Fatwa Committee. You scroll down here. This is our Sheikh Salah Salih, and that's myself and other members. Okay. We are called the Resident Fatwa Committee. So we are the body that meets regularly to issue fatwa. Anyway, our official position here briefly is that Muslim students are supposed to strive to go after halal by default source of funding, between grants, between scholarship and financial aid. Okay? And if those sources are insufficient, then you can go with the subsidized loan. Subsidized loan actually is an interest-free loan for a certain period of time, and you have what's called grace period, maybe 6 to 9 months to pay off everything before it becomes like an interest loan. If you default, then the whole loan will become unsubsidized loan, and they start counting interest. Now the tricky question here: what if the subsidized loan is insufficient? Right? What if the subsidized loan is insufficient? You take unsubsidized loan, which is an interest-bearing loan from day one. That's the question, right? According to AMJA, if you are running out of resources, and this is the only way for you to pursue a degree, any degree, undergrad, MBA, master's, PhD, postdoctorate, whatever. Okay? If this is the only way for you to fund your study, current study, then you can borrow money with interest for education purposes. It doesn't mean that riba is halal, but it's a kind of dispensation or excuse. Okay? And no one actually can apply the same rule for mortgage because it's like an alternative. If you do not mortgage a house, okay, and buy it, you can rent a house. So the alternative actually is there. And what you are desperately in need for, or what is called necessity here, is to find a place to live in. So if you find a place, you don't have to be the owner of the house. You can just rent, right? So the alternative actually is there. Since you do have an alternative, you are not supposed to mortgage a house unless it is a halal one, right? It's not the case when it comes to student loan. You reach to a point, if you do not take money with interest, you're kicked out of the program. And that actually could be interpreted as ضرورة. So you can borrow money with interest for higher education purposes. This is the official fatwa of Amjad, it's not my opinion. So you can take that fatwa if you like. Clear? Sisters, I mean,
Brother, I will come back to you. I know you guys have this one. So we're going to take 2 or 3 more questions from the sisters, then we'll move back to the brothers from there. I know, brother, I will go back to you guys now.
okay.
Sisters, if you guys have any more question, please ask away.
So,
I have a question about the credit card. You said about the buying a house, because there was one part of the contract you can have, which is the finance, which is the interest. So how the credit card is different, because there's one portion of credit card, if you don't pay, you have interest. If you don't pay in full,
right.
you will pay interest. So
Difference, sister, is that the riba, when it comes to credit card, is avoidable.
What is the question?
If you,
What is the question?
yeah, she's saying, what is the difference between holding credit card and mortgaging a house? Why holding credit card is okay, while mortgaging a house is not? And my answer is that when you mortgage a house, riba is unavoidable. Okay? Once you get involved in the contract, you have to pay into it. You cannot avoid it. But when it comes to holding credit card, riba is avoidable. If you limit yourself to purchasing items like paying invoices, staying away from cash withdrawal, paying your monthly statement in full before the due date, your interest will go down to zero. So the fact that you agree to pay interest does not make it as haram as getting involved in interest. Once riba is avoidable, okay, and there is the need for that transaction, which is the case. Okay, if I'm to live in, like to go back to Egypt or to Algeria or to Pakistan or to Saudi Arabia or wherever, or to Jordan, then using credit card the same way in the US is not allowed, because you're not supposed to agree to pay interest. But here in this society, there is a public and general need to use a credit card. Some, like opponents, you say, don't accept cash money, don't accept debit card, don't accept personal check. You have to have a credit card. To build your own credit history, you have to hold a credit card. So because of the public and general need for it from one side, and because riba is avoidable on the other side, using credit card actually is allowed. I have a question to you all. Do you want to eat biryani after Isha? The answer is yes, raise your hand. Biryani after Isha?
So one more question from the sisters, and then we'll move back to the brothers section. So one last question from the sisters line. Aisha.
Alaikum salam. Tafadhal.
Okay, so I'm also a new revert and I made really bad decisions before. So I have quite a bit of debt on a credit card and I was thinking about getting a lawyer to do bankrupt when it's process that.
To consolidate, you mean the debts and to like reschedule the.
She said bankruptcy.
No, like to bankrupt.
Personal bankruptcy.
Oh, okay. Is it chapter 9, chapter
7
11?
or 13.
Was that?
That would be this chapter 7 or chapter 13.
Which chapter is this study applied for? Which chapter? Bankruptcy. 7, 9, 11?
I have no idea.
Right. Maybe you can send me like some details by email, and I'll get back to you inshallah with an answer.
Okay.
Do you have my business card, sister?
No.
Okay, you can get it inshallah. I do have some business card.
Okay, well, they say, that I have to file for bankrupt.
Yeah, to be waived legally from the outstanding balance, okay, you have to file for bankruptcy. Now, from an Islamic finance perspective, if you are financially, desperate for this application, like you cannot, for a fact that you cannot pay off that debt, then filing for bankruptcy would be permissible. Because, some people actually might take advantage of this system, might apply for bankruptcy while they know for a fact that they are financially able to pay that debt. And that's a kind of, deception or cheating or lying, which is absolutely wrong. So the simple answer is, if I'm in debt and I have outstanding balance, okay, and I'm solvent enough, financially strong enough to pay off that debt, right? Then I have to pay it. I have to. But if I'm really unable to catch up, like and to pay the principal and the interest,
It's okay.
and the only way for me to be waived legally from that outstanding balance is to apply for bankruptcy, then I can actually apply for bankruptcy. And once legally I'm waived and excused from paying that amount, then even internally to you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't have to pay that debt, even if you get like financially stable in the future. In other words, إذا سقط الدين قضاء سقط ديانة. إذا سقط الدين قضاء سقط ديانة. If you are by the legal system waived from paying that interest and that principal, then even internally between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are waived. Because those companies actually, those credit card companies, will be getting their money from the insurance. It's a system. So whatever is counted as bad debt, right, will be collected through the. So they will get their money. Do not worry.
So this is
Right.
Can I tell you what I want to say? Because it's not
Oh.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Right.
Assalamu alaikum. Brother, based on this sort of lecture, thank you very much for that. It seems to me that all of us are involved in haram in one way. I mean, we live in one financial system, and as you know, we have throughout the world, whether you are in Egypt or Jordan or in the US, and there is something called overnight loan, and the overnight loan is given to central banks from Federal Reserve Bank throughout the world, and the central system or central bank give it to the other banks, and everyone has his own interest. So we live in haram in one way or another. So there's no tickets to the moon yet. So what should we do?
Well, what we can do actually is to strive to stay away from haram as much as we can. Because the current situation that we are living now reminds us with the hadith of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, يأتي على الناس زمان من لم يأكل الربا أصابه من غباره. A time actually will come in which if people do not consume and deal with riba, they will be contaminated with riba. That's the exact era that the Prophet ﷺ actually is talking about. As you said precisely, the whole system is an Islamic one. Even if you go back to the so-called Muslim world, the economic and finance system is a riba one. It's a riba based. It's a capitalist big like riba is an intrinsic component in the system, right? So avoiding it actually 100% is not possible. But the good news here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not task any soul beyond its capacity. So our job actually is to keep striving, educating ourselves, identifying what's haram, trying to come up with Islamic alternative, building our own institutes. I mean this is the best we can do. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not hold us accountable for something that we cannot do.
Even though Islamic Bank, Jordan, for example, I was in the bank, and there's a guy submitting for Qard al-Hasan, and for 700 Jordanian dinar. The bank have administrative and paper, and for 300 Jordanian dinar, that's $1.
You need to ask the scholars in Jordan.
So I think that they call it, sometimes they switch around and instead of calling it riba, they call it administrative fee.
I'm not up to date actually with the bank system.
That's what I'm saying, that this is confusing.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن